You don't need more motivation. You don't need another morning routine, another podcast, or another quote to save you. What you need, what you've always needed, is to fix the battlefield within. Because it's not your life that's broken, it's your mind that's been hijacked. Hijacked by fear, by excuses, by every lie you've believed since childhood. The voice that says, "You're not enough." That voice is not your truth, it's your prison. And every time you obey it, you build walls around the life you could have had. But the second you fix your mind, the second you stop listening to the weakness and start training your inner world like a warrior, that's when your external world starts to bend. Not by luck, not by chance, but because your mind finally became your weapon, not your weakness. Chapter 1. Your mind is the architect of your reality. Your life is not built from the outside in, it's built from the inside out. Every decision you make, every reaction you have, every direction you follow, begins first in the unseen blueprint of your mind. It doesn't matter what the world hands you, if your thoughts are programmed to sabotage every opportunity. Most people try to fix their circumstances without ever fixing the mind that created them. Your mind is the factory, and reality is just the product. The problem is, most people have let their minds run wild for years, unchecked, undisciplined, and untrained. You were never taught to design your thoughts, only to react, to absorb, to copy what you see. But what you don't manage will manage you. If your mind is cluttered with fear, doubt, and scarcity, then, no matter how hard you try, your reality will always reflect those patterns. You are not a victim of fate. You're a victim of unconscious thinking. Thoughts are not just suggestions, they are commands. When you constantly repeat ideas like, "I'm not good enough," or "nothing ever works out for me," your brain starts building a reality that matches that belief. It's like typing code into your life's operating system. Most people don't realize that they are the programmer and the program. Every thought you entertain is laying another brick in the architecture of your future. The mind doesn't care what's true, it only cares what's repeated. If you constantly feed it doubt, it will build a life full of hesitation. If you constantly feed it limitation, it will construct walls around your potential. But if you feed it discipline, focus, and belief, it will begin building a world where you're unstoppable. Your mind is not your enemy, but if left unmanaged, it becomes the most dangerous thing you face. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is a direct reflection of the thoughts you consistently allow to grow. Your reality is just a mirror. If you want to change the image, stop scratching the glass and start changing what's standing in front of it, your mental identity. Who you believe you are sets the foundation for everything you experience. Most people are trying to live a different life while thinking the same old thoughts. That's like planting weeds and expecting roses to grow. You cannot cheat this process. You cannot fake your inner world. You either build consciously or your subconscious will build by default, using old patterns, old fears, and broken programming that was never even yours to begin with. Your mind is constantly constructing your reality whether you're aware of it or not. The question is, are you designing it with intention, or are you letting it be shaped by distractions, opinions, and past pain? Every moment you stay unconscious, your life becomes a replica of your yesterday. But once you become conscious, truly conscious, you can start creating instead of repeating. Reprogramming your mind is not easy. It requires brutal honesty, consistency, and the courage to tear down old beliefs that once protected you. But those beliefs are now your prison. The fear that once kept you safe is now keeping you small. The moment you decide to dismantle the lies and rebuild your mindset brick by brick, you begin rewriting the script of your life. Everything starts with awareness. You can't change what you're not willing to face. Sit with your thoughts. Watch them, question them. Where did they come from? Who gave them to you? Are they serving you or stealing from you? Most people don't even realize their thinking isn't theirs. It's inherited, absorbed, automatic. Awareness is the first hammer that cracks the old mental foundation. Once you're aware, then comes the discipline, not to control every thought, but to filter and redirect, to catch the doubt and replace it with belief, to catch the fear and replace it with courage, to catch the laziness and replace it with purpose. That's how you begin building a mind that doesn't destroy you but builds you. You are not powerless. You are the builder, the architect, the one who gets to decide how strong or weak your foundation is. But you must take that role seriously. You can't keep blaming your outer world if you keep neglecting your inner one. Your mind will either build a prison or a palace. The choice always is yours. Chapter 2. Thoughts become habits. Habits become you. Every action you take begins as a single thought. What starts as a quiet whisper in your mind eventually becomes the way you move, the way you react, the way you live. Your thoughts may seem small, even meaningless, but repeated enough times, they harden into habits. And those habits begin shaping the story of your life before you even realize it's happening. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. And your habits are simply thoughts made physical, repeated so often that they become second nature. The person who always doubts themselves didn't wake up that way. It started with one fearful thought, repeated daily until fear became their default. Every version of you is born from the thoughts you allow to loop. You are what you do repeatedly, and what you do repeatedly is what you've practiced in your mind. If you constantly think about failure, you'll walk through life with hesitation. If you constantly think you're not good enough, you'll act like someone undeserving. Your thoughts write the script, your habits perform it, and your identity becomes the final product of both. Most people want a new life, but they don't want to change their thinking. They hope for discipline while feeding their minds chaos. They crave success but think like a victim. But here's the truth. You don't get what you wish for, you get what your habits are built for. If you want a better future, build better patterns in your present, starting with the thoughts you entertain daily. The danger is that habits don't ask for permission. Once they're built, they run automatically. This is why you keep falling into the same distractions, the same anger, the same procrastination. It's not just who you are, it's who you've trained yourself to be through years of mental repetition. To change your habits, you must first change the root system, your thoughts. Discipline doesn't start with action, it starts with thought. The decision to wake up early, to push through resistance, to stay focused, that decision is born in the quiet space of your mind, long before it becomes a physical act. When you feed yourself disciplined thoughts, consistent habits follow. But if your thoughts are scattered, weak, or lazy, so will be your actions. If your mind is untrained, your habits will betray you. They'll pull you toward comfort, distraction, and excuses, because those are the mental grooves you've carved the deepest. But the good news is that you can always carve new ones. Repetition is the chisel, focus is the hammer, and every time you think with intention, you're building a stronger version of yourself. Habits are not just about routine, they're about identity. When you consistently show up in a certain way, your brain starts to say, "This is who I am." You're no longer just doing the work, you become the kind of person who does the work. That's the real power. Change your habits, and you won't just change your schedule, you'll change your sense of self. Most people think they need to feel motivated to build good habits. But motivation is temporary. Habits are what carry you when motivation disappears. And habits are built by choosing the right thought, even when it feels uncomfortable. The moment you choose discipline over distraction again and again, you begin building a mind that doesn't quit when things get hard. You are not your bad habits, but if you don't consciously replace them, they will keep shaping your life without your consent. The fastest way to rebuild your identity is to attach new thoughts to new behaviors. Even a small change, repeated daily, rewires the brain. You don't have to change everything overnight, just the direction you're heading in. Every habit begins with a single mental shift. One decision to stop reacting. One moment of clarity where you choose growth over comfort. Over time, those moments stack. They become patterns. And eventually, they become who you are. Your habits are not random, they are mirrors reflecting the quality of your thinking. The truth is, you already have the power. You've just been using it to build a version of yourself you're no longer proud of. But if your thoughts created the problem, they can also create the solution. Rewire your thinking, rebuild your habits, and watch how the world starts responding to the new version of you, because that version isn't random. It's who you chose to become. Chapter 3. Destroy the old patterns that keep you stuck. The reason you keep reliving the same struggles is because you're still thinking with the same mind that created them. You can change your environment, your goals, even your friends, but if the pattern inside your mind stays the same, you'll always return to the same place. Progress doesn't come from effort alone. It comes from destroying the patterns that are secretly running your life. Patterns are invisible chains. You don't always notice them, but they guide your every move. They tell you when to pull back, when to stay quiet, when to self-sabotage right before a breakthrough. They make failure feel familiar and success feel uncomfortable. If you're not conscious of your patterns, you'll confuse survival with stability and pain with identity. Most of your patterns weren't chosen. They were inherited or installed by trauma, fear, or repetition. Maybe you grew up seeing avoidance as normal. Maybe you learned to fear rejection or shrink your voice to stay safe. These aren't just memories. They're mental loops that keep replaying, even in situations that no longer require them. To break free, you must question their origin. Destruction sounds violent because it is. You can't tiptoe around old programming. You have to confront it. You have to catch yourself in the middle of the pattern and decide, I'm not doing this anymore. That moment of awareness is the spark. But awareness alone isn't enough. You must take consistent action to shatter what's been keeping you small. Breaking patterns feels uncomfortable because they've become your identity. You're not just letting go of a behavior, you're letting go of who you thought you were. That's why it's so hard to change. Part of you is still loyal to the old you, but you can't become new without betrayal. You must betray your past to be loyal to your future. People often say, "This is just the way I am," but that's a lie they've told themselves for years. You are not your reactions. You are not your fears. You are not your laziness. Those are patterns. They can be changed, but only if you stop protecting them. Stop making excuses for what's destroying your potential. Call it out. Face it. End it. Destruction is not negative when what you're destroying is harmful. It's not weakness to say, "I refuse to live this way anymore." That's power. That's the beginning of rebirth. The caterpillar must dissolve before it becomes the butterfly. You too must dissolve the version of you that was built from pain, doubt, and limitation. Old patterns love familiarity. That's why the moment you try to do something new, your mind panics. It says, go back, stay safe, play small. But safety is an illusion when your comfort zone is killing your growth. Don't let the fear of discomfort keep you stuck in a cycle that leads nowhere. You're not meant to stay in mental survival mode forever. Destruction requires discipline. You'll be tempted to return to what's familiar, to react the old way, to give in to the same emotions. But every time you override that impulse, you weaken the pattern. You starve it, and eventually, it dies. That's how change works, by making different choices until the old choices no longer feel like home. It's not enough to want a new life, you must become the kind of person who no longer fits inside the old one. This means destroying the habits, environments, and thought patterns that kept that old life alive. You can't transform if you're still feeding the same energy that built your prison. Transformation is not a supplement, it's a sacrifice. Don't wait for the pattern to destroy your peace, your relationships, or your dreams. Destroy it now, before it takes more from you. Some people waste years repeating the same lesson because they never stop long enough to see that it's their own mind hitting replay. The cycle ends when you decide it, ends when you take responsibility for the loop and interrupt it. Your triggers are teachers. They show you exactly where your patterns live. Instead of running from them, study them. What makes you shut down? What makes you lash out? What makes you retreat? These responses are clues. And when you follow them back to their root, you'll find a belief that no longer serves you. That belief must be broken. You don't destroy patterns by force alone, you destroy them by replacing them. Nature hates a vacuum. When you remove something negative, fill that space with something powerful. Replace doubt with discipline. Replace fear with action. Replace avoidance with confrontation. Every time you choose the new path, you lay another brick toward freedom. Healing is not just soft, it's sharp. It's not just self-careets, self-confrontation. You have to be willing to tear down what feels comfortable in order to build what feels right. That's how real change happens. Not from wishing or waiting, but from destroying what doesn't serve you and rebuilding what does, peace by intentional peace. And remember this, your future won't be found in the repetition of your past. It will be born in the decision to break the loop, to burn the mental blueprint that kept you trapped. Destruction is painful, yes. But nothing is more painful than staying stuck in a life that no longer matches the person you're becoming. Chapter 4. Discipline your mind before life does. Life will teach you discipline one way or another. You either train your mind willingly, or circumstances will train it for you harshly, painfully, and without mercy. Discipline is not punishment, it's protection. It's what keeps you from collapsing under pressure. If you don't learn to control your thoughts will control you, and life will break you to teach you what you refuse to master on your own. A disciplined mind doesn't panic when things go wrong. It doesn't spiral when plans fail or when people disappoint. It holds steady. It stays focused. Because discipline builds emotional armor and internal force that allows you to keep moving when everything else is falling apart. Without that inner structure, even the smallest storm can feel like a hurricane. Most people wait until life forces them to change. They wait until the pain gets unbearable, until the loss is irreversible, until the damage is done. But by then, the cost is far greater. Discipline is the gift you give yourself before the world demands it from you. It's the choice to strengthen your mind before life tests it. Mental discipline begins the moment you stop negotiating with your excuses. Every day, your mind will offer 100 reasons to stay weak, distracted, or comfortable. Discipline is choosing the higher path, even when it feels harder. It's saying, I know what I feel, but I choose what I want to become. That choice, repeated daily, changes your life. It's easy to be focused when things are easy. True discipline is tested in discomfort. Can you still show up when you're tired? Can you still push forward when your emotions try to pull you back? That's where discipline is forged, in the fire of resistance, not when it's convenient, but when it's necessary. Discipline isn't about being emotionless. It's about not being ruled by emotion. It's the ability to observe your feelings without obeying them, to feel fear and move anyway, to feel doubt and act anyway. Discipline puts your mind in the driver's seat, so your emotions don't take you off the road every time life gets hard. A mind without discipline is like an army with no commander, chaotic, scattered, and easily defeated. Your thoughts will betray you if you let them wander aimlessly. Discipline trains them to align, to obey, to focus. It takes effort at first, but once your mind learns its new role, it becomes your greatest ally. Discipline is also how you build trust with yourself. Every time you do what you said you'd do, even when it's hard, you prove to your mind that you are in control. That builds confidence. That builds momentum. And eventually, that builds a mental fortress that life can't easily shake. Most people live in reaction. They let the world dictate how they think and feel. Discipline shifts you into creation. You become intentional with your thoughts, deliberate with your energy, precise with your focus. Instead of being pulled in 1,000 directions, you move like a laser, clear, powerful, and unstoppable. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. Some days you'll slip. Some days your mind will wander. But discipline isn't about never falling. It's about never staying down. It's the muscle that lifts you back up. And like any muscle, it grows with use. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. You can't build a disciplined mind while living in a distracted world. You have to unplug. You have to protect your focus. You have to create space to think clearly, to move intentionally, to strengthen your mental frame. A chaotic environment feeds a chaotic mind. Discipline requires order internally and externally. The world will offer you escape. It will offer shortcuts, temptations, and distractions. But every time you choose to delay gratification, to stay locked in, to follow through, you're building a mind that can't be broken by temporary pleasure. Discipline is freedom, not from effort, but from chaos. When you discipline your mind, you change how you show up in every area of life. Relationships, work, goals, challenges, all of it gets filtered through a different lens. You stop chasing quick fixes and start building lasting results, because your mind is no longer scatter, it's solid. If you don't discipline your mind, life will do it for you. Through regret, through missed opportunities, through repeated failure. But when you take control early, you turn life into a training ground, not a battlefield. You rise above the chaos because your mind no longer reacts, it responds with clarity. The greatest warriors never wait for battle to prepare. They train in silence. They sharpen their edge daily. Treat your mind the same way. Build it strong. Build it disciplined. So when life throws its hardest punches, you won't break. You'll stand. And not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Chapter 5. Your beliefs are the blueprint of your future. Everything you do, everything you chase, and everything you avoid comes from one core place: your beliefs. Your beliefs are not just thoughts you repeat. They are the internal architecture shaping your reality. They determine what you think is possible, what you think you deserve, and what you're willing to pursue or surrender. You're not building your life on facts. You're building it on the blueprint your beliefs laid out. Most people don't question their beliefs. They just live them. They carry old stories like invisible scripts. I'm not good enough. People like me don't succeed. It's too late for me. These aren't truths, they're programs. Left unchallenged, they harden into reality. And then you begin to call it fate, when really, it was just your mind echoing outdated instructions. You cannot outwork a belief that says you're unworthy. No matter how hard you grind, if your inner narrative says you're not meant to win, you will find a way to sabotage your progress. That's why some people stay stuck even when opportunities are everywhere. Their outer world expands, but their inner belief system refuses to evolve. A belief is just a thought you accepted as absolute. It might have come from a parent, a teacher, a failure, or a moment of pain. But now it lives inside you, steering your choices like an invisible hand. Until you go deep and ask, do I still want this belief guiding my life? You'll keep walking roads that lead nowhere. Your beliefs act like filters. Two people can experience the same moment. One sees opportunity, the other sees threat. One sees growth, the other sees failure. The difference isn't the situation, it's the lens through which it's viewed. Change the lens, and the entire world looks different. That lens is your belief system. To change your life, you must update your internal blueprint. That doesn't mean blind optimism, it means conscious editing. You must inspect the beliefs you've been carrying and ask, does this belief serve the future I want to build? If not, it needs to go. You can't build a powerful life with weak, outdated codes. New beliefs don't come from hope, they come from evidence. Every time you act in alignment with your potential, every time you follow through, you create proof. That proof builds belief. The stronger your belief, the stronger your actions. It becomes a loop. Belief drives action, and action reinforces belief. That's how momentum is born. But belief requires consistency. You can't believe one day and doubt the next and expect transformation. Belief must be cultivated, watered, and defended. It must be louder than the doubt you inherited. And if that means reprogramming yourself daily, then so be it. Because the cost of not believing in yourself is living a life that never becomes yours. Your future doesn't rise to your dream set, rises to your beliefs. You might dream of abundance, impact, freedom. But if you believe you're still the broken version of who you used to be, you'll keep attracting experiences that confirm that identity. The mind doesn't build based on hope, it builds based on belief. Beliefs shape your boundaries. If you believe you're valuable, you don't tolerate disrespect. If you believe you're capable, you don't back down from challenges. Beliefs are the silent rules you live by. If those rules are based on fear, pain, or scarcity, then your life becomes a cage. If they're based on power, purpose, and truth, then your life becomes a launch pad. There is no transformation without belief. You can fake confidence, hustle harder, or even achieve temporary success. But if your beliefs haven't changed, you'll sabotage your growth from the inside. You'll revert, you'll plateau, because the future you're trying to live won't match the blueprint you're still carrying. You must become the architect of your belief system. Don't just absorb beliefs, design them. Choose beliefs that elevate you, challenge you, and align with the highest version of who you want to be. You're not stuck because life is unfair. You're stuck because you've outgrown the beliefs you were taught to follow. Sometimes you have to destroy belief systems that once kept you safe. Maybe those beliefs helped you survive. But survival isn't the goal anymore. Now it's about thriving. Now it's about expansion. That means releasing beliefs rooted in fear and building new ones based on purpose, clarity, and strength. There is power in choosing your beliefs with intention. Believing in yourself isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's saying, I trust my path, my effort, and my growth. And once your beliefs start aligning with your potential, life starts responding in kind, because the outside world always mirrors the inner one. You are not bound to the blueprint you were handed. You can rewrite it. You can revise the story. You can construct a new future brick by brick, belief by belief. But only if you dare to challenge the ones that kept you stuck. Because your future isn't waiting on luck, it's waiting on your belief that it's possible. Chapter 6. Silence the noise. Listen to your inner power. In a world screaming for your attention, silence has become rare and powerfully underrated. The constant noise of opinions, trends, expectations, and fear drowns out the only voice that truly matters, the one within you. Your inner power doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you never learn to quiet the world, you'll never hear the guidance that was built into you from the start. We're conditioned to look outward for answers. Social media tells us who we should be. Society tells us what success looks like. Family and peers tell us what's realistic. And in all that noise, we forget how to think for ourselves. We forget that clarity doesn't come from external approval, it comes from internal alignment. Your power doesn't need permission, it needs space. Space to breathe, space to speak. And that space is only found in silence. But silence is uncomfortable for those who fear their own thoughts. That's why many avoid it. They stay busy, distracted, constantly stimulated, because if they sat with themselves long enough, they'd have to confront the truth. There's a voice inside you that already knows. It's the voice that knows what you're capable of. It knows when you're playing small. It knows when you're lying to yourself. But you've been taught to ignore it, to override it, to drown it out with noise. Reconnecting with that voice isn't just a spiritual act, it's a survival skill in a distracted world. Your inner power is not found in the noise, it's found in the stillness. Not in the crowd, but in the quiet room where you finally face your own reflection. That's where growth begins. That's where truth is born. You don't need more information, you need more introspection. The wisdom you seek has always lived inside you. Silencing the noise is not about escaping life, it's about mastering it. When you disconnect from distractions, you start to reconnect with discipline, with focus, with the raw energy that fuels purpose. You stop reacting to the chaos outside and start creating from the clarity within. That's when you become unstoppable. Stillness is where strategy is born. When your mind is clear, you can think ahead. You can see the bigger picture. You can feel the right direction instead of guessing your way through life. But if your mind is filled with noise, you'll always be playing defense, reacting, rushing, and missing the deeper moves. Learning to sit in silence is how you reclaim your power. It's how you learn to trust yourself again. Because the more you tune out the world, the louder your inner strength becomes. You begin to realize that you've always had the answers, you were just too distracted to hear them. Your intuition is not some mystical force, it's a trained connection to your truth. The more you listen, the stronger it becomes. And the more you follow it, the more life begins to align. But that can only happen when you clear the static, when you stop letting the world drown out your own knowing. Noise convinces you to chase what you don't need. Silence reminds you of what really matters. It simplifies your mind. It brings your focus back to your core values, your real priorities, your actual purpose. In silence, ego fades and clarity rises. You begin to see through the illusion of busy and into the truth of being. To access your inner power, you must learn to separate signal from noise. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every voice is meant to guide you. Most of what you hear is projection, not wisdom. Let the noise pass. Let the world shout. But you stay still, stay grounded, stay connected to your inner frequency. There's strength in stillness, the kind of strength that doesn't need applause or validation, a power that doesn't waver when others doubt you. Because it's rooted in something deeper than trend, it's rooted in truth. And once you're grounded in that truth, no amount of noise can shake you. You cannot serve your potential and your distractions at the same time. You have to choose. You have to decide that your peace is more valuable than popularity, that your clarity is worth more than chaos. And when you choose silence, you choose to walk a path that most avoid, but one that leads directly to your greatness. Don't be afraid to disconnect. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to walk away from the noise, even if it means walking alone. Because on that quiet path, you'll meet the version of you that's been waiting to rise. The version not built by fear, but by focus. Not led by pressure, but by purpose. The world will always be loud, but your power doesn't come from joining the noise, it comes from rising above it. So tune out the world, tune into your soul, and let that quiet, steady voice inside you guide you home to the life you were always meant to live. Every breakthrough begins with silence, not a silence forced by retreat, but a silence chosen with intention. When you stop chasing the noise and start observing your own mind, something powerful happens. You gain access to a deeper wisdom, one that isn't reactive, one that doesn't need applause. This wisdom has been waiting behind the mental clutter, behind the endless mental chatter, to finally guide you forward. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of awareness. It's a moment where you become the observer instead of the reactor, where your inner voice can rise above the noise and speak to you with truth. When you practice this kind of silence, you begin to move with more conviction, because you are no longer guessing, you are listening. And from listening, you move with purpose. In the quiet, your insecurities surface, and that's exactly what's supposed to happen. Because until you face the lies you've believed about yourself, you cannot destroy them. Most people fear silence because it reveals their internal battles. But those battles are not enemies, they are doorways. The discomfort is the beginning of your transformation. The world rewards noise, but peace rewards power. There's a sacredness in solitude that can't be replicated in crowds. In silence, you're no longer influenced by comparison. You stop measuring your life against others. You stop living for approval. You start honoring your own journey, your own rhythm, your own truth. Your inner power grows every time you refuse to react. When you stop replying to every insult, when you stop rushing to prove your worth, when you no longer let opinions throw you off course. That restraint is power. That self-control is a muscle, and silence is its training ground. The most dangerous people are the quiet ones, not because they hide weakness, but because they've tamed chaos, they've mastered themselves, they've walked through storms and no longer need to shout. Their presence speaks because their mind is disciplined. That's the kind of strength that can't be faked. In silence, healing begins. Not the kind of healing that looks good on the surface, but the kind that goes deep, that confronts the old pain, that releases the suppressed emotions, that forgives without needing closure. Real healing needs stillness, not noise. You can't heal in chaos. You can only numb. The more time you spend in silence, the more you become immune to noise. You stop chasing drama. You stop needing to be right. You stop fearing solitude. And in that stillness, you become someone rare, someone who leads from within, someone who doesn't fold under pressure because their center is unshakable. Silence teaches patience. It teaches timing. It teaches you that not every move must be immediate, and not every battle must be fought. Sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all. Sometimes the greatest strength is found in the pause, not the push. You don't need to fill every gap with words. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. The moment you realize that silence is enough, you free yourself from the addiction to validation. Your peace becomes your answer, your energy becomes your boundary, and your silence becomes your shield. In a noisy world, silence becomes a statement. It says, I am no longer available for what drains me. It says, I don't chase, I attract. It says, I know who I am, and I no longer need the world to confirm it. That kind of energy is rare and magnetic. It draws power. It commands respect. Silence realigns your energy. It reconnects you to what matters. In the quiet, your purpose becomes louder. Your goals become clearer. Your direction becomes undeniable. The fog lifts. The confusion fades. And all that's left is clarity and the courage to follow it. The person who sits comfortably in silence is the person who no longer fears themselves. They've met their demons, they've embraced their shadows, and in doing so, they've reclaimed their power. When you can sit in silence and feel whole, you've already won a war most people don't even know they're fighting. Noise may be louder, but silence is stronger. It doesn't entertain, it doesn't seek, it simply holds space, and in that space, everything false falls away. What's real remains. And what's real is enough to rebuild your entire life from the inside out. So learn to turn down the world, learn to sit still, learn to hear yourself again, because in that sacred silence, your inner power is not just waiting to be found, it's waiting to be followed. Chapter 7. The Power of Self, Talk and Mental Reprogramming. The words you say to yourself are not harmless. They are seeds. Every sentence you repeat in your mind becomes part of your identity. Over time, these phrases build mental highways paths that determine how you think, how you act, and what you expect from life. Self-talk is not background noise. It's the script your life is following. If you call yourself lazy long enough, your mind will adjust your behavior to match that label. If you constantly say, "I can't," your actions will reflect that limit even when the opportunity is right in front of you. What you speak, you program. Your mind is listening, and it believes what it hears the most, even if it comes from you. Your self-talk becomes your self-image. And your self-image controls everything: how you show up, how you carry yourself, what goals you set, and what you believe you can achieve. That's why you can't afford to joke about your failure or casually label yourself weak. Your brain doesn't recognize sarcasm, it just stores instructions. Mental reprogramming starts with awareness. Most people never question their inner dialogue. They let old beliefs repeat unchecked, unaware that they are strengthening the very thoughts that keep them small. You have to observe your self-talk like a coach, not a critic. Catch the patterns, challenge the negativity, replace it with something stronger. Affirmations are not magic, they're mechanics. They work not because they sound nice, but because they interrupt old loops. When you say, "I am disciplined, I am focused, I am enough," you're rewriting mental code. You're replacing the virus of self-doubt with software that runs on belief. Repetition is how you install new truth. The most powerful person in your life is the voice you hear the most. And if that voice is tearing you down, correcting everyone else won't save you. You could have all the support in the world, but if your internal voice is toxic, no external praise will matter. Healing begins when your self-talk becomes your source of strength. You are not weak because you've made mistakes. You're weak because you keep repeating to yourself that you'll never grow. Self-talk isn't just commentary, it's instruction. If you keep telling yourself that you're stuck, you'll stay stuck. But if you start saying, "I'm rebuilding, I'm learning, I'm rising," your mind will start to obey. The brain doesn't care what's true, it cares what's familiar. If you've spent years feeding yourself negative loops, those thoughts feel safe even when they're harmful. That's why changing your inner voice feels uncomfortable at first. It's not because it's wrong, it's because it's new. But new is where the breakthrough lives. Reprogramming your mind is not a one-time event, it's a daily discipline. You don't brush your teeth once and expect perfect hygiene forever. You don't say one positive phrase and expect your identity to change. You show up every day, repeat the new code, and gradually overwrite the old system. The most dangerous self-talk is subtle. It's not the loud insults, it's the quiet resignation. Phrases like, "That's just how I am," or "Maybe this isn't meant for me." These aren't reflections, they're limitations. And every time you repeat them, you reinforce a ceiling on your own potential. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you rise to the level of your self-talk. That voice inside becomes your coach or your critic, your fuel or your chains. And the best part? You control it. You're not born with a fixed voice, you train it. And what you train, you can transform. One powerful shift in self-talk can change your entire direction. Telling yourself, "I handle pressure well," or "I adapt fast," or "I solve problems quickly," rewires your nervous system to respond with strength instead of fear. These aren't just words, they are the architecture of confidence. Stop waiting to feel confident before you speak with power. Speak with power, and confidence will follow. You don't need to believe every word at first. You need to practice. The more you speak life into your mind, the more your actions start to match. Behavior follows belief, and belief begins with thought. You've been programmed since childhood by parents, teachers, culture, media. Most of your inner voice isn't even yours, but you get to reclaim it. You get to override the noise and write a new internal script. One that honors your strength, your vision, and your evolution. That's how self-mastery begins. You're not lying to yourself when you affirm your power, you're remembering it. You're reaching back into your potential and pulling it into the present. You're speaking as your future self would speak. And when you talk like your future self, you begin to think, feel, and act in alignment with that version. Negative self-talk might feel honest, but it's often outdated. It's based on who you used to be, not who you're becoming. Stop giving it authority. Stop letting old versions of you write your current reality. Instead, speak from your highest self, the version of you that's focused, grounded, and powerful. Every time you interrupt a negative loop, you gain power. Every time you replace fear with courage in your inner dialogue, you shift your trajectory. This isn't wishful thinking, it's neural rewiring. Your brain listens, your brain adapts, and it becomes what you tell it, over and over again. You don't need to shout your affirmations to the world. Whisper them. Repeat them in your quiet moments. Write them down. Breathe them in. Your mind doesn't care how loud they are, it only cares how often you feed them. Frequency builds belief, and belief, once rooted, changes everything. From this day forward, speak like your words. Build worlds because they do. The world you live in is made first in your mind. Talk to yourself like someone worth listening to. Command your attention. Lead your emotions. Build your mental software with clarity, with love, with discipline. Because the voice that shapes your life is yours. And once you realize that, you'll stop letting it tear you down. You'll use it as a tool, a weapon, a guide. Because if you can master your self-talk, you can master your mind. And if you can master your mind, you can rebuild any life you want. You are constantly in conversation with yourself, whether you realize it or not. Every situation, every challenge, every quiet moment is filled with your internal voice, interpreting and deciding. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck is how they talk to themselves in those moments. Growth begins with, "I can handle this." Stagnation begins with, "Why does this always happen to me?" You must protect your internal dialogue like a sacred space. Don't let fear walk in uninvited. Don't let bitterness take a seat. Don't allow the voice of doubt to become your daily companion. Your mind is the most valuable real estate you own, and you must become ruthless about what lives in it. Self-talk is not passive. It's either building your strength or draining it. Every powerful person you admire has mastered one thing, the voice in their head. They've trained it to speak in alignment with their mission. They don't leave it to chance. When setbacks come, their self-talk doesn't collapse, it corrects course. It says, "This isn't the end. This is feedback. Adjust and move." That's mental maturity, and it's available to anyone willing to train. Reprogramming doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means learning how to speak to yourself in ways that move you forward, even when things aren't. It means choosing empowering language during the storm. Not ignoring reality, but reframing it. Turning "this is impossible" into This is hard, but I've faced hard before. When you're alone, your self-talk is your only company. What kind of company are you keeping? Is it a voice that uplifts you, that pushes you, that tells you to rise even when you've fallen 10 times before? Or is it a voice that reminds you of every failure, every flaw, every fear? If it's the latter, then it's time for new language and new leadership from within. Speak to yourself like someone who believes in your transformation. Imagine your younger self listening to everything you say. Would they feel inspired or ashamed? Would they believe they're capable, or would they shrink under your doubt? Your self-talk not only shapes your current self, it shapes the parts of you still healing. Even your body responds to your self-talk. Stress, energy, posture ease are all affected by how you speak to yourself. When your internal voice is calm and empowering, your nervous system relaxes. When your voice is sharp and cruel, your body tightens. This isn't just mindset, it's biology. Words carry frequency, and that frequency affects your entire system. Change begins when you speak differently to the version of you that's still afraid. Instead of condemning that part, guide it. Say, I know you're scared, but we've come too far to give up now. That's reprogramming. That's how you unify your inner world, not by force, but by compassion wrapped in strength. You'll notice that when your self-talk changes, your standards change. You stop tolerating environments that contradict your inner vision. You start making decisions based on your future, not your fears. You protect your energy. You move with intention, all because your inner voice finally started speaking in the language of power. If you want to see your reality shift, start by editing the soundtrack of your mind. Stop playing the old tapes that told you you're not good enough. Stop looping the fears that were never even yours. Record a new narrative rooted in resilience, in purpose, in power. Let that become your daily soundtrack. Your inner voice sets the rhythm of your day. The first words you say to yourself in the morning matter. Are you starting the day in defeat or in discipline? Are you setting the tone with complaints or with courage? Small shifts in your morning self-talk can redirect the energy of your entire day. When you talk to yourself with love and strength, you don't become soft, you become solid. You don't become delusional, you become deliberate. Speaking power into your mind is not fantasy, it's foundation. And the stronger your foundation, the higher you can build. You're not just changing how you think, you're changing what you're capable of handling. Mental reprogramming is not a trick, it's a tool. It's the work of upgrading the thoughts that run automatically in the background of your life. If you don't update the system, old errors keep showing up. Your job is to notice the bugs, rewrite the code, and run a new program, one that's aligned with who you're choosing to become. The more intentional your self-talk, the less you need external validation. You become your own source, your own guide, your own fire. That doesn't mean you won't value support, it means you won't depend on it to function. And that independence makes you powerful in ways others don't understand until they do the inner work themselves. It takes time, it takes repetition, and it takes resilience, but it works. Speak with conviction, even when you're shaking. Speak with belief, even when doubt knocks. Because every time you choose words of strength, your mind sharpens, your spirit rises, and your life shifts. Self-talk isn't just personal development, it's personal revolution. Chapter 8. Train focus like a warrior trains his sword. Focus is your mental weapon. In a world full of distractions, it is the rarest and most valuable skill you can possess. Just like a warrior sharpens his sword daily, you must sharpen your focus intentionally, ruthlessly, and without compromise. Without focus, your energy is scattered, your progress is slow, and your purpose becomes diluted. The average mind is pulled in 100 directions before noon. Notifications, noise, opinions, temptations, they all chip away at your mental edge. But a focused mind is different. It knows where it's going. It filters out what doesn't matter. It protects its attention like a warrior guarding his territory, and in doing so, it becomes unstoppable. You can't master your craft, your discipline, or your destiny without mastering your focus. People don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they divide their energy across too many meaningless pursuits. Focus is how you bring power to your potential. It's how you turn thoughts into impact and ideas into execution. Training focus requires elimination. You can't focus if you're saying yes to everything. Every yes must be guarded with 100 no's. Every distraction must be called out. The warrior doesn't train with clutter. He clears the arena before every battle. You must do the same with your mental space. Most people confuse motion with progress. They stay busy but not effective. True progress comes from focused effort, not scattered hustle. You don't need more time, you need more focus. 1 hour of deep concentration is worth 10 hours of distracted effort. Quality beats quantity when your focus is sharp. To train your focus, start by mastering your environment. Your space reflects your mind. Clean the clutter, set boundaries, control what enters your world. If your room, your phone, your schedule are chaotic, your mind will mirror that chaos. A focused life begins with intentional design. Mental clarity isn't natural, it's earned. It comes from discipline, from rituals, from routines. A warrior doesn't just swing his sword randomly, he drills, he repeats, he prepares. You must do the same with your mind. Create daily rituals that sharpen your attention and anchor your purpose. Focus also requires intention. Don't just start your day, direct it. Decide what matters. Decide where your energy will go. Set clear targets and remove anything that doesn't support them. If you don't control your attention, the world will gladly do it for you, and it will profit from your distraction. Train your mind to do one thing at a time. Multitasking is the enemy of mastery. Every time you switch tasks, you lose momentum. Your brain needs time to recalibrate. Stay locked in. Finish what you start. The warrior finishes his movement before moving to the next. That's how strength is built, through presence. You must learn to enjoy boredom, because boredom is the bridge between distraction and focus. Most people run from it, so they never develop the capacity to go deep. But depth lives beyond distraction. When you train your brain to stay still, to stay with one task, you unlock a level of performance others never touch. A warrior respects time. He doesn't waste it. He trains when others rest. He sharpens when others scroll. Every minute you give to distraction is a minute stolen from your destiny. Focus turns minutes into momentum, and momentum into mastery. That's how the sharpest minds are made. Protect your mornings like sacred ground. Your mind is most vulnerable to programming when you first wake up. Don't feed it noise. Feed it clarity, intention, and silence. Begin with focus, and the rest of your day follows that rhythm. Begin with chaos, and chaos will dictate your pace. You must also train your emotional focus. Don't just control your thoughts, control your reactions. A warrior doesn't swing blindly at every threat. He chooses his battles. When your emotions try to pull you off track, pause. Breathe. Choose response over reaction. That's mental discipline in motion. Focus isn't just about what you look at, it's about what you ignore. You can't do everything, be everywhere, or please everyone. You must choose. Every yes is a sacrifice. Every choice has a cost. The focused mind is not afraid to miss out because it knows what it's committed to gaining. There will be days when your focus slips, when the world feels too loud and your mind too tired. That's okay. But don't stay there. Reset, refocus, return to your mission. A warrior isn't flawless, she's relentless. Keep sharpening, keep eliminating, Keep choosing what matters over what's easy. The enemy of focus is comfort. When you stop challenging your attention, it becomes lazy. You must stretch it. Set time blocks. Train in silence. Practice deep work. Sit with one task until it's complete. This is how you build mental endurance, the ability to stay with what matters, even when it's hard. Focus also fuels confidence. When you finish what you start, when you stay consistent with your goals, your mind starts trusting you. That trust builds belief. That belief fuels action. And that action shapes your identity. The most confident people are those who have trained their focus over time. Surround yourself with people who value your focus. Not everyone will understand your discipline. Some will try to pull you into their distractions. Be kind, but be firm. Protect your mind. You can't build something extraordinary with people who live in mental chaos. Choose your circle with clarity. Remember, focus is not a switch, it's a skill. And like any skill, it gets stronger with practice. Don't wait to feel motivated. Start with small wins. Sharpen your attention daily. Eliminate what weakens you. Choose depth over speed. And train your focus like a warrior trains his sword with precision, patience, and pride. Because in the end, it's not the most talented who win, it's the most focused. The one who stayed the course. The one who didn't flinch. The one who knew that the real battle was not out there but in the mind. And the mind, once trained, can cut through anything. Distraction is not just a habit, it's a trap. It feels innocent, even enjoyable. But over time, it weakens your willpower and fractures your direction. You begin tasks with energy and end them with regret, wondering where the time went. This erosion of focus doesn't happen in one day, it happens in small compromises. A few minutes lost here, a few mindless scrolls there, and soon your purpose becomes blurry. To rise above the ordinary, you must treat your focus like your lifeline. You don't casually protect a lifeline, you guard it with urgency. You must become hyper-aware of what steals your time, your mental space, and your attention span. Even minor distractions are dangerous if they show up daily. Because repetition builds reality, and repeated distractions build failure. Technology is a tool, not a master. But for most people, it has flipped roles. Every buzz, ping, or notification acts like a leash on your attention. If you allow your devices to interrupt you endlessly, your brain begins to crave that fragmentation. Over time, deep focus becomes foreign, and your mental endurance weakens. That's not progress, it's surrender. Greatness demands isolation from noise. Focus doesn't live in a crowd. It lives in the silence where concentration can expand. You can't build mastery if you're constantly reacting to messages, trends, and interruptions. You need sacred blocks of undisturbed time. Time where you disappear from the world and reappear only after progress has been made. To be focused is to be feared, because focus creates momentum, and momentum is hard to stop. When your energy is aligned, when your purpose is locked in, people notice. You move differently. You act with clarity. You speak with conviction. That type of presence is rare and intimidating to those who rely on distraction to escape their own potential. Focus brings fulfillment. When you immerse yourself in a task, when you enter flow, time disappears. You stop chasing stimulation and start experiencing depth. This is where true satisfaction lives, not in the rush of multitasking, but in the joy of mastery. That joy isn't loud, it's powerful, precise, and addictive in the best way. Every time you resist distraction, you strengthen your inner command. You tell your brain, I am in control now. At first, it resists. It pulls you toward comfort. But discipline, like muscle, grows under resistance. The more you train your focus, the more natural it becomes. 1 hour of deep focus can change the trajectory of an entire day. There's a reason warriors train alone. It's in solitude that clarity sharpens. Your focus doesn't need an audience. It needs a mission. It needs repetition. It needs space to evolve. Silence is not empty, it's filled with potential. And when your mind learns to thrive in that stillness, your output begins to reflect something extraordinary. Focus reduces mental weight. You don't have to carry the chaos of a dozen undone tasks. You don't have to stress over divided priorities. One goal, one target, one block of time. Simplicity is where strength begins. Cut the excess, prioritize, protect. Progress follows clarity, and clarity is the fruit of ruthless focus. You'll notice that the sharper your focus becomes, the fewer things excite you. That's a sign of growth. You stop chasing every shiny object. You stop saying yes to distractions disguised as opportunities. You realize that every commitment costs energy, and not everything is worth the price. Focus helps you become selective and powerful. Sleep is your ally in focus. A tired mind is a scattered mind. You can't expect elite concentration from a burnt-out system. Treat rest as part of your training. Recovery sharpens clarity. Clarity fuels discipline, and a rested mind becomes a weapon that cuts through the fog of distraction like a blade through air. You must learn to direct your focus under pressure. Anyone can concentrate in silence, but can you stay locked in when life gets loud, when chaos hits, when stress rises? That's the next level of focus, staying calm, staying centered, staying sharp, even when everything else spins. That's mental warfare, and it's won by the trained, not the talented. Your focus is a reflection of your priorities. If your day is filled with meaningless activity, your goals will reflect that. But if your day is built around deep work, around impact, around consistent progress, your results will mirror that discipline. What you focus on grows. So, choose wisely, because your future depends on it. Train your focus in the mundane. The more you can bring intensity to the small tasks, the more unstoppable you become in the big ones. If you can lock in while reading, writing, studying, building, you're training your brain to resist the urge to flee when it matters most. Focus isn't just for projects, it's a lifestyle. You don't need perfect conditions to train focus. You need commitment. A focused mind can cut through noise, delay gratification, and stay locked on a goal regardless of the environment. Life won't always offer ideal moments, but your mind, once trained, doesn't need them. Like a warrior in the wild, it adapts, adjusts, and strikes with precision. Chapter 9. Emotions are signals, not shackles. Emotions were never meant to control you, they were meant to guide you. They are messengers, not masters. When you treat them as permanent truths instead of temporary signals, you begin to live in chains of your own making. Emotions are not facts, they're feedback. They're clues from your inner world about what needs attention, healing, or action. Most people fear their emotions because they never learned how to read them. They suppress sadness, avoid anger, and deny fear, thinking that strength means silence. But real strength is understanding your emotions without becoming enslaved to them. It's feeling fully while acting wisely. Emotional mastery isn't numbness, it's clarity under pressure. Every emotion carries a message. Anger might be telling you that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness might be urging you to let go. Fear could be calling you to prepare. Joy is a signal that something aligns with your soul. When you listen, instead of reacting, you decode the wisdom within the feeling. That's how you gain power over your emotional state. The problem begins when you identify with your emotions. You say, I am anxious, instead of I am experiencing anxiety. That subtle shift matters. You are not your emotions, you are the awareness behind them, the observer, the translator, the leader. Detachment is not denial, it's freedom from emotional possession. Avoiding emotions doesn't make them disappear. It just buries them deeper, where they fester and sabotage you from the shadows. Repressed emotions leak into your decisions, your tone, your relationships. The more you suppress, the more reactive you become. Healing begins the moment you allow yourself to feel fully, without judgment. Emotional intelligence means giving yourself space between feeling and reaction. That space is where transformation happens. The moment you pause, breathe, and ask, what is this really about? You shift from victim to leader. You reclaim control not by denying the emotion, but by responding with wisdom instead of impulse. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who feel less but the ones who've learned how to feel without falling apart. They don't fear anger, they direct it. They don't drown in sadness, they move through it. They use emotion like a compass, not a cage. That's emotional discipline. Emotions are data, not destiny. Just because you feel uncertain doesn't mean you're unprepared. Just because you feel afraid doesn't mean you're weak. The emotion is a spark, not a sentence. You decide what to do with it, use it, learn from it. Let it guide you, not govern you. When you allow emotions to teach you, they stop tormenting you. That wave of guilt, maybe it's a lesson about your values. That burst of envy, maybe it's a reminder of a desire you've neglected. Every emotion, even the uncomfortable ones, is a teacher. If you sit with it long enough, it will show you something important. Reacting emotionally is easy. Responding with awareness is rare. Most people are trapped in emotional autopilot, pulled by moods, ruled by triggers, lost in their own waves. But the moment you become conscious of your feelings, you become the captain of your ship again. You can navigate, adjust, and direct your course. You are allowed to feel without being controlled. You can cry without being weak. You can be angry without being cruel. You can be afraid and still move forward. Strength is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. And mastery comes from understanding, not avoidance. When you deny your emotions, you deny part of your humanity. But when you learn to process them with maturity, you upgrade your emotional software. You move from reactive to reflective. You stop repeating old patterns and start rewriting your internal responses. That's when growth becomes inevitable. Sometimes your emotions are based on outdated beliefs. A feeling might be real, but the story behind it might be false. That's why it's important to question your emotional reactions. Ask, is this coming from truth or from trauma? Emotional healing isn't just feeling, it's investigating the source of the feeling. You don't need to control every emotion, you need to control your relationship with them. Let them rise, let them speak, but don't hand them the wheel. Let your values drive your actions, not your moods. A disciplined life isn't emotionless, it's anchored in purpose, guided by vision, and guarded by choice. Emotion is energy in motion. If you trap it, it turns toxic. But if you move with it, breathe through it, express it, it becomes fuel. That's why journaling, talking, meditating, moving your body, and creative expression are powerful. They're not weakness, they're tools for emotional alignment. You're allowed to feel deeply and still be disciplined. You can honor your heart and still execute your mission. Emotional maturity means giving yourself permission to feel while refusing to be defined by those feelings. It's choosing clarity over chaos, even in your most vulnerable moments. Pay attention to your emotional patterns. What triggers you repeatedly? What shuts you down? What lifts you up? These patterns reveal what still needs healing and what already holds power. Don't run from them, study them, because the more you understand your emotional language, the better you speak the language of growth. Stop judging yourself for feeling. Emotions make you alive. They are not flaws, they are feedback systems wired into your being. You don't need to escape them. You need to learn how to listen, process, and release. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. That's how emotional mastery is built. The greatest warriors are not cold, they are composed. They've felt it all: grief, rage, disappointment, and still chose discipline. They let emotion flow through them, not rule them. They move with heart, but act with strategy. That's the balance you must aim for. That's what makes you unshakable. Your emotions are your allies, not your enemies. Treat them with respect, not fear. They're here to inform you, not imprison you. And once you learn to listen deeply, act wisely, and stay grounded in truth, you'll realize that your emotions were never the problem. Your reaction to them was, master that, and you become truly free. Emotions are not the enemy. They are messages, not mandates. Most people mistake their emotions for commands, thinking that feeling something means they must act on it. But maturity begins when you learn to pause, decode, and respond, and not react. Your emotions are there to inform you, not to imprison you. Every emotion you feel is rooted in something deeper: a value, a fear, a past wound, or a subconscious belief. Anger may be a signal that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness might be pointing to a loss or misalignment. Fear could be highlighting a lack of preparation. But none of these feelings are meant to dominate you. They are data, not destiny. When you treat emotions like final verdicts, you become their prisoner. You lash out because you're angry. You withdraw because you're hurt. You hesitate because you're scared. And each time, you reinforce a pattern that says, I am what I feel. But you're not. You are the observer of those feelings, and the one who gets to choose the response. The most powerful people feel deeply, but they don't act impulsively. They've learned to sit with discomfort without being controlled by it. They ask, what is this feeling trying to show me? Instead of, how do I escape this? That question opens the door to insight. And insight is where emotional intelligence begins. Emotions are temporary, decisions are permanent. When you make permanent choices based on temporary feelings, regret becomes inevitable. That's why self-awareness matters. That's why you must learn to breathe before you speak, to step back before you step forward. That space between emotion and action is where transformation lives. Avoiding emotion is not strength, it's suppression. When you numb yourself to avoid pain, you also block joy, peace, and clarity. The goal is not to eliminate feeling, it's to elevate understanding. A strong mind doesn't reject emotion. It listens, filters, and decides with clarity. You've been taught that emotion equals weakness, but the truth is, untrained emotion is weakness. Properly channeled emotion is power. It fuels passion, builds empathy, drives purpose. Anger, when directed wisely, fuels boundaries. Sadness, when processed fully, deepens connection. Every emotion has potential if you learn to master it. Self-control is not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally fluent, knowing the difference between a real threat and an old trigger. Recognizing when you're projecting past pain onto present situations. Understanding that your feelings are real, but they are not always accurate. That's what gives you power over them. You must stop blaming your emotions for your choices. Your reactions are not caused by how you feel, they are caused by how you manage what you feel. Emotional responsibility is the beginning of freedom. No one can control how they feel in every moment, but everyone can control what they do next. Awareness turns emotion into insight. The moment you name a feeling, you start to separate from it. You shift from drowning in it to studying it. You begin to notice patterns show certain environments, trigger anxiety, how specific people stir frustration. This awareness is a map showing you where growth is needed. Your emotions don't define you, but they do reveal you. They reveal your wounds, your fears, your values. Instead of hiding from them, lean in. Listen. Ask yourself, what belief is feeding this feeling? Often, the emotion is just a surface response to a deeper thought that needs to be challenged and reframed. You are not weak for feeling deeply. What makes you weak is allowing those feelings to override your values, your discipline, your logic. Strength is feeling anger and choosing peace, feeling fear and choosing courage, feeling sadness and still showing up. That's power. That's emotional mastery. Most people try to control their external world to feel better internally, but the real work is inside. When your inner world is regulated, external chaos loses its power. Emotional regulation is a shield. It protects your peace, your energy, and your decisions. It makes you unshakable, no because you feel less, but because you lead more. You must also learn to separate past emotion from present reality. Just because you were hurt before doesn't mean you'll be hurt again. Just because fear protected you once doesn't mean it's the right compass now. Outdated emotions can sabotage new seasons. Check the timestamp on what you're feeling. Some reactions belong to chapters you've already outgrown. Let people say what they want. Let circumstances shift. Let discomfort rise. You don't have to silence your emotions, but you also don't have to serve them. Let them pass through. Let them speak. But you stay in control of the steering wheel. You are the one who chooses what comes next. Emotional strength is built in silence. In those quiet moments when no one sees you, regulating, breathing, choosing restraint over rage. That quiet work is the loudest proof of growth. You don't need to explode to prove you feel something. You don't need to collapse to show pain. Hold your power with grace. You don't train your emotions overnight. It's a lifelong discipline. You'll still have bad days. You'll still react sometimes. But the difference is awareness. You'll catch it quicker. You'll recover faster. You'll rise stronger. Growth isn't perfection. It's progress under pressure. Your emotions are not curses. They are clues. Clues pointing to your healing, your boundaries, your evolution. When you stop judging them, they stop overpowering you. When you respect them, they start guiding you. And when you lead them, instead of being led by them, you unlock your true emotional intelligence. This is your reminder. It's okay to feel, but it's not okay to let those feelings run your life. Observe them, understand them. Then choose your response with strength, not fear. Because the moment you stop being ruled by emotions is the moment you start ruling your life. Chapter 10. A changed mind creates an unrecognizable life. Your life is a mirror of your mind. What you believe, you build. What you focus on, you feel. If you want to change your life, don't start with the external, start with the internal. A new job, a new location, a new relationship will mean nothing if the same broken mindset follows you into every situation. Change your mind, and your entire world transforms. A changed mind sees differently. What used to feel like rejection now feels like redirection. What used to break you now builds you. What used to trigger fear now activates awareness. When you shift your thinking, you shift the meaning of your experiences. And that shift opens doors you never saw before. Transformation doesn't begin with action, it begins with thought. The decision to see yourself differently, to believe differently, to think beyond your limitations, This is where the seed of a new life is planted. And like any seed, it grows in silence, in darkness, and through patience. But once it takes root, everything above the surface begins to change. A changed mind creates new behaviors, new habits, new standards, and those new actions, repeated daily, reshape your identity. People will say, "You've changed," but they won't understand how deep that change goes, because the external shift is just the result. The real change happened where no one could see, in the battleground of your thoughts. You must be willing to unlearn before you can transform. Many of your beliefs were handed to you, not chosen by you. Ideas about worth, success, struggle, love, they were passed down like hand-me-downs. But if those beliefs no longer fit, it's time to take them off. A new life demands a new mental wardrobe. Changing your mind is not just about positivity, it's about power. It's about taking back authorship over your narrative, no longer allowing fear to write your story, no longer letting doubt set your boundaries. It's about choosing new thoughts with intention and watching how they ripple into your relationships, your goals, your destiny. When your mind changes, your energy changes. You walk differently. You speak with conviction. You stop settling for what drains you. You begin to attract people, opportunities, and experiences that match your elevated thinking. Life doesn't just get better by chance, it gets better by change. And that change starts with you. A changed mind doesn't need validation. It moves in alignment. You no longer seek permission to grow. You no longer beg to be understood. Your peace comes from clarity, not approval. And that clarity turns you into someone who is both grounded and unstoppable, because nothing outside you has power over what's already resolved within you. The old you will try to fight the new mind. It will whisper doubts. It will crave comfort. But growth means friction. It means saying no to old patterns, even when they feel familiar. It means outgrowing environments that once felt like home. A changed mind is a lonely process at first, but it leads to a life that finally feels true. You don't need to announce your evolution. Let your new actions speak. Let your results scream. People will notice the difference before you say a word. Because a changed mind doesn't need to perform, it simply produces. It doesn't explain, it executes. And its silence becomes its statement. Don't expect people from your past to understand your new mind. They knew the version of you that played small, that accepted less, that hid from discomfort. This new you might feel like a stranger to them. That's okay. Your job is not to shrink back, it's to keep rising, no matter who stays or leaves. A changed mind demands a new environment. You can't grow in soil that keeps pulling you back into who you used to be. Protect your mindset. Curate your circle. Surround yourself with people who speak the language of growth, not gossip, who value evolution, not excuses. Your environment must match your elevation. You'll know your mind has changed when you start choosing discipline over drama, peace over chaos, purpose over popularity. Your decisions begin to reflect your future, not your feelings. You no longer need to react, you respond. And that response is powered by intentional thought, not emotional impulse. The beauty of a changed mind is that it makes old problems irrelevant. What once consumed your attention now barely moves you. What once kept you up at night no longer holds weight. Because when your thinking evolves, your problems shrink, your focus sharpens, and your energy becomes priceless. You were never stuck, you were just thinking with an outdated operating system. And once you install new beliefs, new strategies, new ways of seeing the world, you unlock new levels of living. Clarity becomes your compass, confidence becomes your fuel, and progress becomes your pattern. Don't just aim for surface-level change. Go deeper. Redesign the way you think about failure, rejection, discipline, love, success, and time. Challenge every belief that keeps you small, and replace it with a belief that demands growth. That mental renovation will make your life unrecognizable in the best way. There will be moments when your new mindset is tested, when life throws chaos, setbacks, and silence at you. But this time, you'll be different. You'll move with strategy, not struggle. You'll pivot, not panic, because your mind is no longer reactive, it's resilient, rooted, and ready. A changed mind is dangerous to mediocrity. It no longer tolerates what drains it. It no longer stays silent when purpose calls. It no longer entertains the old version of self. It rises. Quietly, powerfully, consistent until it builds a life that no longer resembles the pain it came from. Your mind is your power, and the moment you shift it intentionally, radically, completely, you will outgrow every limitation that once held you back. You will become a walking example of what's possible when someone decides to think differently. Change your mind, and you change your life forever. A changed mind no longer negotiates with limitation. It sees through the excuses that once held it hostage. It recognizes procrastination as fear in disguise. It no longer justifies inaction, it demands movement. When your thoughts shift, your standards rise, and anything below that new frequency feels unbearable to stay in. You'll begin to notice the internal shifts before the external world reflects them. You'll say no more often. You'll walk away from what no longer fuels you. You'll crave growth more than comfort. And though nothing may look different at first glance, everything will feel different, because your inner world is finally leading the way. One of the signs that your mind has truly changed is how you handle discomfort. You stop fleeing from it. You begin to welcome it as a signal that you're stretching. You understand that discomfort is not a threat, it's a teacher. A changed mind uses pain as fuel, not a reason to quit. The most powerful transformations are silent. No dramatic declarations, no need for applause, just a steady shift in how you think, what you tolerate, and how you show up every day. When your mind changes, your energy no longer matches your old patterns. You start to outgrow things with grace, not guilt. People might say, "You've changed," and they're right. But they won't always understand what changed you. They won't see the nights you wrestled with your own thoughts, the hours spent tearing down false beliefs, the moments where you chose growth over comfort when no one was watching. Let them wonder. Your peace doesn't require explanation. You'll feel the friction between your old habits and your new mindset. That's normal. Growth creates tension. Your body wants what's familiar, but your mind is pulling you forward. Keep choosing alignment over autopilot. The resistance is proof that you're shifting from who you were to who you're becoming. With a changed mind, your time becomes sacred. You stop wasting it on what doesn't move you forward. You stop entertaining distractions dressed as opportunities. Every minute becomes an investment in your future. And you become the kind of person who values presence over pressure. You begin to trust yourself more deeply, not because everything is perfect, but because you've proven that you'll show up regardless. That self-trust becomes your new foundation. It silences the noise of doubt. It anchors you during storms. It becomes the quiet confidence that builds lasting momentum. A changed mind creates new language. You start speaking from vision, not from victimhood. You stop saying, "I hope," and start saying, "I'm building." You replace "maybe one day" with "today matters." Your words reflect your new frequency, and those words begin to shape a life that mirrors your upgraded mindset. You will outgrow certain relationships, not from arrogance, but from evolution. Some people only recognize the version of you that needed validation. When that version dies, they feel uncomfortable. Let them go. A changed mind doesn't cling, it releases. It makes space for alignment, not attachment. You start to value solitude more than shallow connection. The noise of the crowd can't compare to the clarity found in stillness. You stop fearing loneliness, because now you have peace. And peace becomes your compass. It tells you when something is right. It warns you when something is off. You begin to move by instinct, not impulse. Momentum becomes your new addiction. You fall in love with growth, with discipline, with showing up for yourself day after day. You stop waiting for motivation because your mindset is rooted in mission. And from that mission flows everything: your habits, your choices, your results. A changed mind no longer fears failure. It sees it as feedback, not a finish line. Every setback becomes a recalibration. You stop quitting at the first sign of resistance. You understand that the path isn't always easy, but your thinking is finally strong enough to carry you through it. Your identity begins to catch up with your vision. What once felt like a dream now feels like a standard. You're no longer shocked by your own growth, you expect it. You no longer wish for progress, you create it. And in that shift, you build a life that reflects the strength of your new mindset. You realize that the most powerful transformation isn't becoming someone else, it's returning to the version of you that was buried under fear, doubt, and conditioning. A changed mind doesn't make you different, it reveals who you were meant to be all along. And once you meet that version of yourself, there's no going back. You don't fix your life by forcing the world to change. You fix your life by mastering the one thing you've had control over all along: your mind. Because the moment your thoughts align with power, your actions follow. And when your actions change, your future can't stay the same. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need permission. You just need to stay consistent, stay disciplined, and stop running from discomfort. The world will try to distract you, to convince you to go back to the old version of yourself. Don't. Because the one who wins in silence, the one who sharpens their mind in the dark, that's the one who walks into the light already unstoppable. So fix your focus, train your thoughts, and watch your life transform quietly, completely, and forever.